What is going on? Lukey, and round 7 of the 2021 NRL season is over and done with. In my opinion, the best round maybe of all time. Now, there might be a little bit of bias because the Bulldogs won, but overall I thought it was a pretty good round of footy. A lot of controversy in terms of sin binnings and stuff, and send-offs and injuries and all that sort of stuff, but we're going to be covering all of that. Let's get into my review of round 7. Now, the first game of the round saw the Penrith Panthers defeating the Newcastle Knights 24-6. Now, I've got to say there wasn't much interest in my part to watch this game. I was out and I was sort of watching it on and off because I was like, oh, Penrith are going to win this one quite comfortably. And then I started saying the scoreline, I was like, oh, the Knights are only a couple of points behind here. And then I started watching more and more, and I was like, man, Knights have a chance here. But I suppose in the end they didn't really have a chance. I always felt Penrith were going to win it, but I was just surprised with how close it actually was. Now, the Knights, they competed really hard, and they just kept sort of holding on. They just kept holding on. And with those sort of performances, you never know. Sometimes they just nick a lucky try and they end up in front. But look, Penrith, they ran away with it. It's exactly what I thought they would do, and they did it. But I feel like a loss is coming for Penrith. It feels like it's getting closer and closer. I don't know, like the Knights aren't exactly a top team at the moment, so the fact that they pushed them, even the Broncos pushed them a little bit, so yeah, I feel like they are getting closer to a loss, but I feel like it might be a good thing for them going forward if they are to have a loss. But look, for the Knights, there are promising signs. I mean, they're nowhere near 100%, and they're competing with some of the top sides, so I think it's a lot better than what they produced to start the season. However, still another loss for the Knights and another win for Penrith. The next game of the round saw an under 20 sort of scoreline. It was the Rabbitohs defeating the Titans 40-30. I can't believe the comeback. Now, this was a game that I was watching, and I was like, oh, Titans got this one. Fafita had a hat-trick, and I was like, oh, this is done and dusted. I mean, Rabbitohs, they're gone. They are gone. Titans are going to get the win. Titans got the momentum. And then all of a sudden I checked it, and it was like 30-all, and I was like, what the hell? What is going on with this? What is going on with the NRL at the moment? No lead is secure, I swear. No lead is secure except for the Roosters against the Dragons, but we'll get to that. But yeah, the Titans, they didn't play half bad. I mean, they scored 30 points against the Rabbitohs. And the Rabbitohs, again, they're another side that I feel like is getting so close to losing, and they just somehow pull it out of their ass last minute. And that's exactly what they did this week. They did it against the Tigers last week. They're not exactly playing fantastic, but I mean, it's kind of expected. Latrell wasn't there. I actually picked the Titans for an upset, and I actually saw a lot of people were picking the Titans for an upset. So when the Titans got the lead, I wasn't surprised. I was like, yeah, well, it's kind of about right. And then all of a sudden, Rabbitohs came back, and I was going, hang on, what are the Titans doing? However, this game was all about Benji Marshall. He stepped up when it was needed. Cody Walker played fullback. I thought he was pretty decent. Cash and Bonds, I mean, I know he's played fullback before, but it's been quite a while, and I thought he went back there and he was pretty decent. He just transitioned pretty well. Benji in the halves was fantastic. It's like such a weird dilemma and such a weird situation for the Rabbitohs, where you've got Cody Walker as a fantastic 5'8", Adam Reynolds a great halfback, and then you got Benji Marshall there, and you're like, man, maybe he should be a starting half, but there's no real spot for him. I mean, at another club for sure, but look, it is an interesting element for them to have, and should one of them go down, I feel like their premiership chances don't really change. I feel like you could slot Benji Marshall into that. Maybe not halfback, maybe if Reynolds goes down, but at least if you chuck him in that 5'8" position like they did with Cody Walker not there, I feel like Benji, he's so cool, calm, collected, and just when he needed to get the job done, he got the job done, and he did it in such good fashion too. It was so entertaining to watch. The next game of the round saw the annihilation of the Brisbane Broncos. Parramatta Eels picking up the victory 46-6. I think everybody saw this coming. I don't really think too many people thought the Broncos would get the job done. But look, I didn't think it'd be this much. I didn't think they would smash them by this much. I was in Darwin. Now in my preview, my tips and predictions, I actually was saying, oh, it's at Bankwest. So the Eels, they're sure things. But then people were like, oh no, it's been playing Darwin. And then they started talking about Darwin. And I was watching the broadcast, and I was like, oh, maybe Broncos are going to pull off an upset. But within like a couple of minutes, you could see it just wasn't happening. It just wasn't going to happen. Parramatta just so strong all over the park, super strong. And Sevo had one of his better games. In fact, the whole Eel side, they were on fire. Broncos, poor Broncos. I don't know what they do. Tommy Dearden's just signed with the Cowboys too, so there's another player lost. You look at the players who are at other clubs, like your Sam Walkers and that, who they've let go. It's not a good situation for the Broncos. I don't know where they go from here, but for the Eels, it's another win. I don't really think it means too much, but I mean, considering the first game of the season when they took on the Broncos, it had to be a big comeback victory. The fact that they just came out and absolutely smashed them, I suppose that's a good sign. But in terms of the actual game, like it wasn't anything unexpected. We knew it was going to happen, so I don't really think there's anything we can take out of it, and the Eels probably take out of it, other than there's another 2 points on the table. Now we move on to the best game of the round. The Canterbury-Bankstown Bulldogs picking up the first W, the first dub, the first win of the season against the Sharks, 18-12. And I've got to say, even at 18-0 up, no matter how confident I was sort of feeling, you always had in the back of your head, oh yeah, they're going to come back and win here. There's been so many comebacks. Even the next game after this, there was a big comeback. And it didn't happen. Thankfully, it didn't happen. And I feel like at times, the Sharks, like, they kept pounding the line of the Bulldogs, and the Bulldogs just kept deflecting them away. And it sort of got to the point where I was like, well, Sharks got lucky. I think they scored off a kick. Look, that was the only real try that they scored, and then right at the end they scored. But in terms of, they kept offering a lot at the line, and the Bulldogs just kept holding them out. And I was like, man, well, they've already offered everything they've got and they haven't scored. So even though the Sharks kept coming at them, I was feeling confident because I was like, well, the Bulldogs defended so well. Every time the Sharks got close, and they did get close quite a few times, a lot with that Hiroti guy. And then the cover defense just came across and smashed him every single time. I think there was literally 3 or 4 times when it happened. So the poor dude, he ended up scoring in the end, but it wasn't really for anything. But yeah, there was a tense couple of minutes at the end there. But for the most part, the Bulldogs, I feel like, were the better side. I think they were the better side overall. Obviously, they picked up the victory. But just in the sense that the Sharks, they had a lot of field position, they had a lot of possession in general, but I didn't think they were actually going to do anything with it because the Bulldogs just kept shutting it down. So I think it's credit to the Bulldogs, especially with how the defense has been throughout the start of the season. Credit to Dylan Napo as well. I've talked so much smack about him. I think every Bulldog supporter, every NRL supporter pretty much has said Dylan Napo isn't worth his contract. But this was one of the games he finally stood up, and we saw how effective it was. We saw him and Thompson absolutely killing it. All the players around him were killing it as well in defense, but those two were leading from the front, and that's how we ended up with an 18-point lead because they were smashing it. It just shows you how effective Dylan Napo can be, which also makes it so frustrating because he only does this once every couple of years. We saw him smash the Rabbitohs that game for the Roosters, and a lot of people probably don't ever remember it. That's how long ago it was. But there was a game where he was just unstoppable that game, played the whole game, 80 minutes, just smashed all the Burgess boys, and then I think he's been living off that ever since. So everyone's been waiting for years for this sort of performance, and this has finally happened. Now, it's disappointing it's taken years, and even against a team like the Sharks, I'll just be expecting that week in, week out from a guy who's played for Queensland and, won premierships and done all this sort of stuff on huge money. So it feels weird to be talking about, oh, well, he finally had a good game, as if he's just some sort of reserve grader. But overall, I'm not going to fault the Bulldogs too much. They're my team. They finally got a win. I think everybody in the whole NRL community was happy. You see Trent Barrett on the sideline. He was in tears. That's how much it meant to him, and that's how much it meant to the Bulldogs fans. I know myself, I've never been so happy in my life. For the Sharks, though, it's sort of similar to the Broncos. I don't know where they go from here. This game, although they lost again, it doesn't really mean anything. I mean, they lost to the worst team in the comp, but it's like they got all these players off contract. The coach is just a filling coach because they got rid of their coach. I mean, I feel like the board was wanting them to be in the top 4, and obviously this just shows you how far they actually were off. I mean, look at the side they produced. Sean Johnson came back, and I think he's the best half they got, and even he couldn't even spark them to be the worst team in the comp. So I don't know what they expected John Morris to do, and this kind of just reflects bad on the Sharks because of what they expected John Morris to do with this side. And then he's all of a sudden not the coach, and they're playing even worse, and they're not losing to teams like the Roosters and all those good teams. They're losing to the Bulldogs. Now on to the last game of Saturday. It was another upset. It was the North Queensland Cowboys defeating the Canberra Raiders 26-24. Raiders were up 24-6. I don't know how they lost this one. I honestly don't. I know the Cowboys have been playing pretty good the last couple of weeks in front of a home crowd. I mean, Raiders aren't exactly the best travellers, so I mean, I suppose before the game started, you might have thought, yeah, maybe Cowboys are a chance. But at the same time, 24-6, I just thought it was a lock-in. I thought the Raiders were just going to run away with it. I thought there was more chance of the Raiders going on and putting 40 to 50 points on them rather than the Cowboys coming back and winning. But, I mean, that's all it takes in the NRL these days. Once you start getting a few set restarts, you score a try, momentum swings, and then all of a sudden you're back in the game. So I think this is the biggest example of that because before the game, the Raiders should never have lost this one, and I still don't really know how they've lost it. And I feel like the players don't really know how they've lost it. And something's happening at the Raiders. I don't really know. I can't put my finger on it. But it is very Ricky Stewart-like. He seems to get these sides up. He's so intense. And then after a couple of seasons, the team just goes to shit. Happened at the Roosters, happened at the Sharks, and then he ends up sacked. And I don't know if it's going to happen at the Raiders. I wouldn't go that far. But it definitely feels like that premiership window that I thought was still open for another couple of years is just getting slammed shut very, very quickly. For the Cowboys, though, this is the Cowboys that I expected going into the season. Then the first couple of weeks, I listened to the Dragons and such, and I was like, well, what are they doing? What is happening to this side? Tam Lau was out. I mean, he's still out, but look, the performances they've produced in the last couple of weeks have been a lot more up to scratch. And although they're not playing absolutely fantastic, they're getting wins. And they're getting wins against good sides like the Raiders. So I think it is promising signs from the Cowboys. And this is kind of what I expected from Tom Payton when his signing was announced. I didn't think he was going to go over and produce miracles, but I thought he was going to get better results than what he was. And he's now getting those results. Now moving on to Sunday, we've got another flogging as the Manly Sea was defeating the West Tigers 40-6. Another absolute hiding for the Tigers. And also another hiding given out by Manly in the last couple of weeks. Last week it was the Titans. Titans, this week it's the Tigers. And it's just been absolutely fantastic to see Manly finally up their game. And it's all due to Tom Trbojevic pretty much. Ever since he's come back into the side, he's just sparked them, and it's all of a sudden all the players around him have the confidence, and that's probably what it comes down to. He just gives the confidence to the other players, and as good as a player he is himself, the other players, I feel like when he's not there, they're just looking for him. They're like, oh man, where is he? Like, we need him. I can't really do it. Like, we've got Dylan Walker at the back. What's Dylan Walker going to do at fullback? Now, Tom Trbojevic comes into the side. He kills it. Cherry Evans nearly had a hat-trick in the first half. He had Kieran Foran scoring. Like, everybody doesn't even normally score was scoring. It was a weird sort of game for the Tigers. I feel like Luciano Leilua is the only one who produces for them. And Nofaluma and Leilua, they're the only ones who can really hold their head up. The rest of and Dane Laurie. I'll throw in Dane Laurie as well. He's such a good player. Simpkins went down injured. I think it was in the first half maybe, but he went down injured, and it wasn't a good game for the Tigers, even in terms of injuries and just performances. It wasn't good. I mean, BJ Leilua got hurt in reserve grades. James Roberts still doesn't look like a first grader. So I don't know what the Tigers do. They haven't really got anyone they can bring into the side, and I feel like they're just going to be another team that's just going to get towed up week in, week out. Even if they bring in Jackson Hastings or whatever, I don't think it's going to change anything. I don't think the halves are necessarily their problem. I think they just have problems all over the park. Manly, on the other hand, they don't have any problems at the moment. We'll see how they go next week. They take on Penrith, and I was talking about Penrith are getting close to losing a game. This is definitely a game that Penrith could lose, but it's also a game Manly could lose. I could see, I don't know, maybe we're expecting too much from Manly too soon. I mean, Trbojevic has only been back a couple of weeks. They took on the Titans, and the Titans have been smashed quite a few times this year. They've also beat a few teams, but they've also been towed up a couple of times. As of the Tigers, many teams have towed up the Tigers this year. So maybe we're expecting too much too soon from Manly, but definitely positive signs, and I'm talking about them being a top 4 sort of standard side, so this would definitely be a good test for them in terms of just seeing where they're really at with Tom Trbojevic in the side. Now moving on to the big traditional Anzac Day Clash, it was the Sydney Roosters defeating the St George Illawarra Dragons, a comprehensive victory for the Roosters, absolute annihilation. Although there was a couple shoulder charges that happened, there was 3 sin binnings, I think. Look, Tedesco got knocked the hell out. He definitely didn't look in a good way. Went off with HIA, Pereira went off, and then later on Ravalawa ended up getting sin bin as well for a shoulder charge as well. So I think they're going to be facing some lengthy bans. In terms of the actual game itself though, it was a bit lackluster. I think we could see very early on that the Dragons weren't really with it. Although they did score the first try, as soon as the Pereira sin binning happened, the Roosters took full advantage of it, and they didn't look back. Sam Walker, another week in first grade and another fantastic performance. He's really stepped up to the plate, and it's crazy to think that they could have had him and Luke Keary on the side. Now, crazy enough, I don't know if Luke Keary would have held him back a little bit in the sense that he would have just been taking a back foot to him, but he's come into this side, he's made it his own, he's absolutely killing it. Drew Hutchison's doing his part as well, and the rest of the guys around them are really stepping up and helping them. Sam Verrill's back for them as well, which was a big inclusion. Radley's there as well. So the Roosters, a couple of weeks ago, I said, well, as soon as Keary and that got injured, I was like, nah, they're done for the year. But Sam Walker's come in and he's got them firing. Addin Radley's back, Addin Sam Verrills is back, and the Roosters, they're looking pretty formidable all of a sudden. I will say the Dragons, though, this is kind of the Dragons I was expecting. Jack Bird in the halves instead of playing in the centres. Then you chuck in Cody Ramsey, who's never played centre, into the centres. It's very Anthony Griffin-like. He seems to want to do this. He just chucks whoever's their best player, whoever's their best back, and goes, you know what, you're a 5'8". I don't care where you've been playing in the past. You're a 5'8" all of a sudden. And I know Jack Bird has played there in the past, and he is capable, but last minute, like, why are you getting rid of Adam Clune? You either play him or don't play him. Like, you don't put him on the bench. I don't understand that. And then also the fact that they put Ramsey, who's not even a centre, in the centres. It just didn't make sense to me. And then adding Jordan Pereira was the guy who came in, and he's the one who ended up effectively sort of swinging the momentum and losing the game. Even when he was on the field, he was dropping balls and stuff. I don't really rate Jordan Pereira, and I immediately thought it was a bad sign as soon as I saw the lineups. I didn't think the Roosters would beat them by as much as what they did. However, I did think the Roosters were going to win, and it's exactly what they did. Now into the last game of the round, it was the Melbourne Storm defeating the New Zealand Warriors. Pretty easy win in the end. Obviously, the scoreline suggests it. Everything about the game sort of suggested Melbourne were all over the Warriors, and that's exactly what happened. An interesting thing was the guy debuting for the Warriors, Walsh. And as cool as it sounds that there's a guy debuting and playing fullback and, oh, this is cool, like, give him an opportunity, I don't know why you would pick the Melbourne Storm to be the team that you're going to debut a guy. Like, you have Rog Tuivasa-Sheck, who is probably top 3 fullback in the comp, and you chuck him on the wing. Now, apparently he actually requested that and said, yeah, I want this guy to play, I want him to teach him everything, but don't do it against the Storm, not his first game. Let him play the wing. Let Tuivasa-Sheck play fullback, swap in and out a little bit. It was a weird situation for me, and it feels like something Nathan Brown would do. And look, he tried to make Caleb Honga into a 5'8". My point with that is just, he's known as a guy who's sort of makes some weird decisions in terms terms of selections and playing people out of position and all that sort of stuff. And I know Tuivasa-Sheck has played the wing before, and this guy is really highly touted as a future fullback. But just, yeah, like I said, don't do it against Melbourne. Melbourne are already got to carve you up as it is. Don't chuck them in the deep end against these best sides, because I've seen in the past, I've seen with my Bulldogs, we've seen in the Knights when they were shit, when Parramatta was shit, you just chuck these youngsters into the side, and they never really swim. They always get destroyed, their confidence gets shot, and then they end up out of the league in a couple of years. So just don't do it to this guy, because apparently he's super promising, but yeah, I don't know what to really think with that one. It was just a weird selection from me, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, yeah, Warriors don't really think they're ever going to win this one. So that was just the biggest representation of this game. Is I feel like the Warriors knew before the game started that they weren't going to win. And Melbourne, they were just Melbourne. Jerome Hughes killed it. The rest of the guys killed it. Remus Smith looked pretty good. But yeah, Melbourne, they're just never going to lose this one. That's all I can really say about that. Anyways, that's my review of round 7. Leave in the comment section below what were your thoughts of all of the games. I'm expecting a lot of comments about the Bulldogs, even maybe like the Cowboys or something, because there was quite a few upsets, a couple of controversial decisions in terms of shoulder charges, so plenty of stuff to talk about. So leave in the comment section below what are your thoughts of round 7. Also, while you're at it, go ahead and give this video a like if you did happen to enjoy it. Also, make sure to turn on the notification bell and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. You'll be able to see all my videos straight away if you've got the notification bell on, so go ahead and do that. Also, give me a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke on YT for the most part. My Facebook is just Mr. Luke, but everything else is Mr. Luke on YT. So go ahead, give me a follow, give me a like, do all that sort of stuff. And that's how I'm going to end this video. Stay tuned for more content on the channel. Plenty of stuff to talk about. So yeah, I'm going to end this one here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. See yous.